thank you for joining us in the DLFs Readers in Residence. And the moderator of this session is none other than Ahsan Akbar. Again, please. And if you don't know him, he's the director of Dhaka Lead Fest, and he will be moderating the whole session with Tilda Swinton. And I'd like to invite him on the stage so that he could introduce the speakers and start the session. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, good afternoon. We have serious competition outside, so we'll try to be...
These are our backup singers.
Backup singers. So today I want to invite all of you in a session of poetry and some readings from books that Tilda loves. I also love that we share this sort of friendship with sharing texts and excerpts from books and poetry. So we thought, why don't we share it with a wider audience here? And we're very grateful that Tilda agreed. And we call her the Reader in Residence because she's our Reader in Residence. And we're very grateful for that. So I would like a round of applause. And we'll start off with a little story, because I think it needs to be set straight how we met. And she didn't storm into my room. I was in a hotel room. She didn't barge into my room.
I can tell you it's a story about curiosity, and it's a fable about curiosity leading to beautiful things. There's a hotel in Paris that I'm very fortunate to occasionally be allowed to stay. And it's very small, has only a few rooms, and I think over the time I've stayed there, I've stayed in all of these rooms, and they're all different and beautifully decorated. But there was one room that I had never stayed in. And one day I was leaving, and I saw that the door of this room was ajar. This is really like one of the Arabian Nights, this fable, I realized. The door was ajar, and I could not resist it. And I went into the room to be nosy, to see what the room was like, to see how they decorated this particular room. And I looked in the bathroom, and I thought, oh, beautiful tiles and taps. And then I turned around, and sitting on the bed was a man. Fully clothed, I hasten to add. And the rest is history. He had the grace not to call the police, and also to do a very, very clever thing, which was to notice that we had a friend in common, and mentioned the name of our friend in common, Tariq Ali, which was an excellent common name to use. And very quickly after that, after introducing himself, told me that he was a director of this festival and asked me to come. And I said, sure. And then we parted, and I went downstairs. And I think you thought that we would never hear from each other again. But by the time I was in the car outside, I decided I will come to Dhaka to this literary festival.
So should we start with the readings?
Yes.
What have you got in store for us?
And this selection is really proudly ramshackle and entirely personal. These are little extracts of poems and writings that give me some kind of nourishment, and the thought of pitching them against my backup singers it gives me a frisson, I have to confess. It gives me a frisson because it's a good thing to have them as our colleagues and comrades. And so, if you can't hear their words, please find them later. Most of them I've been finding this morning through the internet, so because I didn't bring the books with me. So, if it's not clear, I apologize, but I blame other people for that. Please go and find them. So, they're really just words of my comrades, people I feel are close to me. I want to start with someone I knew very well. I'm very happy and proud to say that, the great John Berger. And I have to say there was a poem that I wanted to read you of his, which is not on the internet. So I can't find it. Maybe I'll find it and bring it next year. But I wanted to read two small pieces of writing that he gives us about poetry. John Berger. The boon of language is not tenderness. All that it holds with exactitude and without pity, even a term of endearment. The word is impartial, the usage is all. The boon of language is that potentially it is complete. It has the potentiality of holding with words the totality of human experience, everything that has occurred and everything that may occur. It even allows space for the unspeakable. In this sense, one can say that language that is potentially the only human home, the only dwelling place that cannot be hostile to man. For prose, this home is a vast territory, a country which it crosses through a network of tracks, paths, highways. For poetry, this home is concentrated on a single center, a single voice, and this voice is simultaneously that of an announcement and a response to it. And then, poems, even when narrative, do not resemble stories. All stories are about battles of one kind or another, which end in victory or defeat. Everything moves towards the end, when the outcome will be known. Poems, regardless of any outcome, cross the battlefields, tending the wounded, listening to the wild monologues of the triumphant or the fearful. They bring a kind of peace, not by anesthesia or easy reassurance, but by recognition and the promise that what has been experienced cannot disappear as if it had never been. Yet the promise is not of a monument. Who still on the battlefield wants monuments? The promise is that language has acknowledged, has given shelter to the experience which demanded, which cried out. There's John Berger. I've never felt that it was an advantage not to understand Bengali, but I can't understand what's being said, and I'm kind of grateful right now.
I don't think any of us can understand.
Okay, good. That's another language. They do things differently there. So I am a Scot, proudly. When I come here, I make sure that I'm introduced not as British, but as Scottish. There's a reason for that. And I wanted to introduce you, if you don't know him, something of one of our great Scottish poets, Norman MacCabe. It's a short poem about travelling from London to Edinburgh on the train. And I don't know, I was listening to some people talking this morning about split identity, or about a sense of divided self, whether that means some kind of confusion of nationality, and I was thinking, I know very few people who don't carry this burden. I think it's sort of the human condition to have this confusion between, are we one thing or another? And I think being Scottish and being on a train coming from London back to Scotland, every Scottish person in this audience, and I hope there are some, will know what I mean by that. It's a break for freedom. I'm waiting for the moment when the train crosses the border and home creeps closer at 70 miles an hour. I dismiss the last 4 days and their friendly strangers into the past that grows bigger every minute. The train sounds urgent as I am. It says home and home and home. I light a cigarette and sit smiling in the corner. Scotland, I rush towards you, into my future, that every minute grows smaller and smaller. Norman Mackay, look for him, extraordinary writer. He wrote not only about the glories of our capital, Edinburgh, which is, you know, the seat of the birth of the Enlightenment and all sorts of extraordinary human endeavors, but also very beautifully about the Highlands where I live and nature. And then I felt that I couldn't honestly not indulge myself to read some Hafiz, who I love so much, and you all know Hafiz, I'm sure, but since I was given this opportunity, I just wanted to share a few of my many favorite poems by Hafiz. Brings life to a field. By the way, I should say that these are all from this edition, incredibly translated by Daniel Ladinsky. I mean, he's a poet for sure. It's not possible to complete yourself without sorrow. Sorrow is a vital ingredient that shapes the heart and enriches it. So, endure sadness the best you can when its season comes. That rain that can fall from your eye brings life to a field. And on other days, when you laugh, a sun takes birth in a sky you will someday know. See how all the elements are inside of you. See how your soul is a sire of light. When was the last time you wallowed in contentment? Maybe lay in bed for 2 days just making your lover sigh and giggle, and she and you talked silliness for hours and joked at the sweet insignificance of most all stuff. Cuddle up with the stars now. You will be able to do that. If you can start treating every human being as a sacred cow, and keep a few of my poems handy. I know there are a lot of important things going on in the world that maybe I should be in some way attending. But I was wondering how those pretty spiced apples just out of the oven and in all of their aromatic glory will taste for dessert and then a late night snack. Go for a walk if it's not too dark. Get some fresh air. Try to smile. Say something kind to a safe-looking stranger if one happens by. Always exercise your heart's knowing. You might as well attempt something real along this path. Take your spouse or your lover into your arms the way you did when you first met. Let tenderness pour from your eyes the way the sun gazes warmly on the earth. Start a game with some children. Extend yourself to a friend. Sing a few ribald songs to your pets and plants. Why not let them get drunk and loose? Let's toast every rung we've climbed on evolution's ladder. Whisper, I love you to the whole mad world. Let's stop reading about God. We will never understand him. Jump to your feet. Wave your fists. Threaten and warn the whole universe that your heart can no longer live without real and lasting feelings. Just as I suspected. In a vision, I heard this clearly whispered. Study those who sing the most, but are free of criticism or praise. Following that advice, things turned out just as I suspected. I started spending more time with birds. A thousand times I have ascertained and found it to be true. The affairs of this world are really nothing into nothing. Still though, we should dance. It's a very strange experience to sit with your applause for his genius. And then I wanted, if I may, to read something, if they will let me. I'm going to try this. It's a little ambitious because it's longer than, it's not this length. I've done some extracts. But I have to do this for my countrymen. The great Robert Louis Stevenson, who was, of course, a great, great writer in pretty much every sphere, wrote an essay which is not as well known as I think it should be. And so I beg your forgiveness if you know of it. I'm going to introduce you to extracts of it. It's an essay called An Apology for Idlers. Can you hear me over this? Okay, good. Okay, can you hear us, I should say? Me and Robert Louis Stevenson. Okay, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to just do a kind of smattering of these extraordinary thoughts. An apology for idlers. Just now, when everyone is bound under pain of a decree in absence convicting them of lesser respectability, to enter on some lucrative profession and labour therein with something not far short of enthusiasm, a cry from the opposite party, who are content when they have enough and like to look on and enjoy in the meanwhile, savours a little of bravado and gasconade. It's fantastic kind of early 19th century language, but it's poetry. And yet, this should not be. Idleness, so-called, which does not consist in doing nothing, but in doing a great deal not recognised in the dogmatic formularies of the ruling class, has as good a right to state its position as industry itself. It is admitted that the presence of people who refuse to enter in the great handicap race for sixpenny pieces is at once an insult and a disenchantment for those who do. A fine fellow, as we see so many, takes his determination, votes for the sixpences, and in the emphatic Americanism, goes for it. And, while such a one is ploughing distressfully up the road, it's not hard to understand his resentment when he perceives cool persons in the meadows by the wayside, lying with a handkerchief over their ears and a glass at their elbow. Alexander is touched in a very delicate place by the disregard of Diogenes. Where was the glory of having taken Rome for these tumultuous barbarians who poured into the Senate House and found the fathers sitting silent and unmoved by their success? It's a sore thing to have laboured along and scaled the arduous hilltops, and when all is done, find humanity indifferent to your achievement. Hence, physicists condemn the unphysical, financiers have only a superficial toleration for those who know little of stocks, literary persons despise the unlettered, and people of all pursuits combine to disparage those who have none. Most boys pay so dear for their medals at school that they never afterwards have a shot in their locker and begin the world bankrupt. And the same holds true during all the time a lad is educating himself or suffering others to educate him. Books are good enough in their own way, but they are a mighty bloodless substitute for life. It seems a pity to sit like the Lady of Shalott, peering into a mirror with your back turned on all the bustle and glamour of reality. And if a man reads very hard, as the old anecdote reminds us, he will have little time for thoughts. If you look back on your own education, I'm sure it will not be the full, vivid, instructive hours of truantry that you regret. You would rather cancel some lackluster periods between sleep and waking in the class. But though I would not willingly part with such scraps of science, I do not set the same store by them as by certain other odds and ends that I came by in the open street while I was playing truant. This is not the moment to dilate on that mighty place of education, which was the favourite school of Dickens and of Balzac, and turns out yearly many inglorious masters in the science of the aspects of life. Suffice it to say this: if a lad does not learn in the streets, it's because he has no faculty of learning. Nor is the truant always in the streets, for if he prefers, he may go out by the garden suburbs into the country. He may pitch on some tuft of lilacs over a burn and smoke innumerable pipes to the tune of the water on the stones. A bird will sing in the thicket, and there he may fall into a vein of kindly thought and see things in a new perspective. Why, if this not be education, what is? As a matter of fact, an intelligent person looking out of his eyes and hearkening in his ears with a smile on his face all the time will get more true education than many other in the life of heroic vigils. God, there's so much, I'm sorry, I'm not going to read all of it, but it's so fabulous. Hang on. The idler has another and more important quality than these. I mean, his wisdom. He who has much looked on at the childish satisfaction of other people in their hobbies will regard his own way with only a very ironical indulgence. He will not be heard among the dogmatics. He will have a great and cool allowance for all sorts of people and opinions. Extreme busyness, whether at school or college, kirk or market, is a symptom of deficient vitality, and a faculty for idleness implies a catholic appetite and a strong sense of personal identity. There's a sort of dead alive, hackneyed people about who are scarcely conscious of living except in the exercise of some conventional occupation. Bring these fellows into the country, or set them aboard ship, and you will see how they pine for their desk or their study. They have no curiosity. They cannot give themselves over to random provocations. They do not take pleasure in the exercise of their faculties for its own sake. And unless necessity lays about them with a stick, they will even stand still. It's no good speaking to such folk. They cannot be idle. Their nature is not generous enough, and they pass those hours in a sort of coma, which are not dedicated to furious moiling in the gold mill. Hang on, one moment. Hang on, one last moment. There is no duty we so much underrate as the duty of being happy. By being happy, we sow anonymous benefits upon the world which remain unknown even to ourselves, or when they are disclosed, surprise nobody so much as the benefactor. The other day, a ragged, barefoot boy ran down the street after a marble with so jolly an air that he set everyone he passed into a good humour. One of these persons, who had been delivered from more than usually black thoughts, stopped the little fellow and gave him some money with this remark: "You see what sometimes comes of looking pleased?" If he had looked pleased before, he had now to look both pleased and mystified. A happy man or woman is a better thing to find than a £5 note. He or she is a radiating focus of goodwill, and their entrance into a room is as though another candle had been lighted. Consequently, if a person cannot be happy without remaining idle, idle he should remain. just a portion of it. And then just two other things that popped into my head. This is 20th century wisdom from Peter Handke. Play the game. Don't make it all about you. Look for challenges. But don't aim for a specific outcome. Eschew ulterior motives. Hold nothing back. Be gentle and strong. Get involved, and the hell with winning. Don't overanalyze, don't calculate, but stay alert. Alert for signs. Be vulnerable. Show your eyes. Invite others to look deep. Make sure there's enough space, and try to recognize everyone's own image. Make no decisions you don't feel excited about. Let yourself fail. Above all, give yourself time, and take the long way round. Never ignore what a tree or a body of water has to tell you. Turn in where you're drawn to do so, and give yourself permission to bask in the sun. Never mind your relatives. Offer support to strangers. Bend down to look at trifles. Duck into deserted places. Don't fall for the high drama of destiny. Laugh conflict to bits. Show your true colors till you prove to be right, and the rustling of leaves turns sweet. Walk about the villages. And then one last something from BC 65. Horace. Don't waste your time, Luc Honoré, living in fear and hope of the improvisable future. Forget the horoscope. Accept whatever happens. Whether the gods allow us 50 winters more, or drop us at this one now, which flings the high Tyrrhenian waves on the stone piers. Decant your wine. The days are more fun than the years which pass us by while we discuss them. Act with zest, one day at a time, and never mind the rest. Hassan reminded me that there is a poem that I was searching for up until 3 minutes before coming on stage, and I've managed to find it, and it's on my phone. And it's actually quite apposite given our situation here. I mean, I'm described often not only as British, not true, but also as an actor, not strictly true. And this is maybe an explanation for why I find it difficult. Because this is Bertolt Brecht writing about an attitude to human experience that I really, really am nourished by. He's talking about the theatre. I don't work in the theatre, haven't worked in the theatre for a very long time. But it's words like this that make me honour the theatre, and I know why he wrote this. You artists who perform plays in great houses under electric suns before the hushed crowd, pay a visit sometime to that theatre whose setting is the street. Here the woman from next door imitates the landlord, demonstrating his flood of talk. She makes it clear how he tried to turn the conversation away from the burst water pipe. A drunk gives us the preacher at his sermon, referring the poor to the rich pastures of paradise. How useful such theatre is, though. These actors do not, like parrot or ape, imitate just for the sake of imitation, just to show that they can imitate. No. they have a point to put across. You great artists, masterly imitators, in this regard, do not fall short of them. Do not become too remote, however much you perfect your art, from that theatre of daily life whose setting is the street. Take that man on the corner. He's showing how an accident happened. This very moment he delivers the driver to the verdict of the crowd. The way he sat behind the wheel, and now he imitates the man who was run over, apparently an old man. Of both, he gives only so much as to make the accident intelligible, and yet enough to make you see them. But he shows neither, as if the accident was unavoidable. The accident becomes in this way intelligible, yet not intelligible for both of them. Both of them could have moved quite differently. Now he's showing what they might have done so that no accident would have occurred. There's no superstition about this eyewitness. He shows mortals as victims not of the stars, but only of their errors.
Thank you so much. So we have about 20 minutes left. The first piece of information that I'm going to share with you is all this, the links to all these readings that Tilda did will be on the website of the Dhaka Lit Fest. So we'll put them up tomorrow so you can access them and read them in peace as opposed to backing up singers. And the second thing I thought we should do is, because I had a conversation with Tilda yesterday, so today I won't talk. I'll just facilitate the conversation with you. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand and Tilda will take them. Can I have a microphone? Volunteers? So the lady there in the middle.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hello. After so long, I'm seeing you again. Should I speak louder? Okay, I'll try to speak as loud as I can. So my name is Zannat, and I would like to know if there's any poem written in Bangladesh or Bangladeshi context that you really admire. Have you found any? A Bangladeshi poem or a poem about Bangladesh? Have you found any that you really admire?
I feel embarrassed in this company. I feel embarrassed in this company because I am really, one of the reasons I come to Dhaka is to learn, truly. And I am here as an audience. It's always a little strange that I'm required to get up on any stage. It's this conversation I'm really interested in, and to learn and meet writers here, particularly Bengali writers. I am a great admirer of the poet to my right, Hasan Akbar, but I can tell you more in a year.
Thank you so much.
Hi, ma'am. I really love everything you have ever been in, and one of your first poems was about the difference that language has in the structure of prose versus in poetry. So my question is, how do you see the difference in language in prose and poetry?
That's a very, very great question for me, because as I've declared before, in a sort of, I was a poet and now I'm not, sort of a way. Poetry is very important to me, was important to me as a child, and I've written very little poetry since I was a student, and I'm borderline ashamed of that, but certainly trying very hard to understand why that's the case. For me, the great magic of poetry is that it acknowledges inarticulacy. It acknowledges that communication is really, really difficult. And I love that acknowledgement. It's maybe my experience of living since childhood that it's a miracle if anybody understands anything you say. And it's sort of, extraordinary if you think you understand them. And I feel that poetry acknowledges that, and more than acknowledges it, it reverences it and sanctifies that inarticulacy. Prose, I have a different relationship with. I am an admirer of great prose. I don't write it. And I would find it easier to approach poetry always than prose for that reason, because my sense is that prose, I speak as a reader, not as a writer of prose, that prose has made some kind of deal with articulacy, even if it's a sort of act of faith, a sort of decision to sound articulate. Sometimes there's a sort of a signposting, I am articulate, and yet it doesn't really speak to me. But there seems to be a sort of courageous attempt to be articulate in prose that I really admire and I'm very impressed by. But the way in which poetry bites at life, just nibbles at life, I find very just easy to understand. And it informs my work as a filmmaker as well. I love inarticulacy in all forms of art. And as a filmmaker, I reach for inarticulacy all the time. I'm rather like Brecht, not interested in the glossy, articulate gesture. I'm very interested in people like me now, not really knowing what I'm talking about, but trying anyway.
Hello. This is more of a personal question. I am also a poet, and I'm in love with poetry, and I'm about to start the new chapter of my life. I'm about to start university, so I would love to know if you have any advice for a lot of us young, the youth, on like how to start our journey and how to be more grateful at the end of the line.
Wow, that's very poignant for me, because I was a poet who got a place at university to write poetry and immediately stopped writing poetry when I got there. So my first piece of advice, is to not ever ask or take anybody's advice. But beyond that, I would hope that won't happen to you. But if it does, don't panic, because the poetry in you will find its course into your life. And poetry, I think, is like mercury. It's sort of, it never dissolves. It always has to go somewhere. So it may take a while for it to find its actual passage. But good luck. Don't read too much.
Hello Tilda, I'm a big fan of you, but I know that you were a writer. Do you ever feel inspired to write poems after reading really good poems? Sorry, I couldn't hear the last bit.
I couldn't hear the last bit.
Oh, okay, sorry. Do you ever feel inspired to write poetry after reading?
Poetry has a strange effect on me. It both inspires me to write poetry, but also satisfies me and sort of shuts me down again. But as I said, the possibility of poetry, the more the effort, the more the acknowledgement of the silence. I think the silence in poetry that is the muscle that I love the most. And in a funny way, and this is a very self-serving thing to say, but it's actually, I realize, a delight for me to read my favorite poetry aloud. And I don't know how many of you have this experience, that to actually read your favorite poetry aloud, even in the bathroom, is because my response to poetry is that generally a spoken thing, even if it's spoken in my own head. And so finding that cadence and the music and also the silence is part of working the muscle. So in answer to your question, I'm still tickling the poet in myself to write poetry that I would have the nerve to read in front of anybody. But I'm still nourished by other people's poetry, so that can't be a bad thing.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. We have been provided with an extraordinary appreciative insight into the importance of being idle. In the modern culture, we have this thing called the hustle culture amongst the young generation.
The what culture? I didn't hear
The
you.
hustle culture.
Hustle culture?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Okay. So, let me elaborate
Inform me.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm here for education, I told
This
you.
is an excellent day. So, hustle culture essentially means that we are asked to perform at our optimum, extreme level of hard work in everything we do, and because we have to make money and exactly. So my question to you is, it's a little personal. What does Tilda Swinton do in her idle moments, and what would she suggest the youth in this hustle culture? How can we integrate that into our lives, the importance of being idle? Thank you very much.
That's a question I can really answer. I would say, honestly, that I try to be idle all the time. I know what it is to feel hustled, and very early on in my childhood, my dearly departed father would tell you, I resisted from the very beginning. I don't know where I got the nerve, but thank the Lord I did. I have made idleness my industry. All my work is made out of idleness. It's all made out of joyful, idle conversation with my collaborators. It comes out of all these strange, curious moments like opening the door of someone's hotel room. That's where the gold lies, in my view. Now, you lot and the pressures that you're under, I don't envy you that pressure. My sense is that you're under more pressure than my generation was. But I would suggest that an answer could be the same. Just go idle, listen to yourself, and know that it's fruitful to be idle. That's what Robert Louis Stevenson is telling us. I mean, do seek this out. It's easily discovered on the internet. It is an empowerment of idleness. It's a revolutionary statement, of course, and it's anti-capitalist, but it's actually about finding your power. It's not about wasting your time. It's the opposite. It's about not giving your power away to anybody else. And so, go idle, go slack, find your rhythm, because that's for real. That's not, I mean, I suppose it's tricky when the hustle has the sort of patina of generational pressure and looks kind of cool. So it doesn't look like it's the man because it's your contemporaries. It's still the man. Resist.
Hello, ma'am.
Where are you?
Ma'am, I'm here.
Okay, hi.
I'm an university student and I'm a very big fan of you. And I know you are a writer. I'm also a writer myself. But at this stage, like, I become very frustrated easily. Like, whenever I try to write or try to do something creative, I always get frustrated. And I also try to take advice from my friends who also are writer or artists, but they can never give me good advice. So I was asking you, like, what would you suggest me? Like, when I get frustrated, I try to read books or do other things like reading poetry or do artworks, but they don't work for me. So would you like give me any personal advice, like how would I recover from this frustration as a writer and do other creative things?
I would suggest that if something always happens, it might have a message for you. So if you can, and I'm not suggesting this is easy, look at your frustration. It might be trying to tell you something really valuable. Look at it. If there's a repetitive thing, you sit down, the same things happens, ask yourself, what is the actual nature of this frustration? Is it that I think I'm not good enough? Is it that this line doesn't sound enough like somebody else wrote it? Is it that I didn't write enough today? Look at yourself and ask yourself, make friends with this frustration and kill it with kindness. There's something in it that's useful for you, and it may very well just go away. Like a muscle with a cramp in it. You have to go into it, and then it just goes away. Brings your loving attention to that frustration and ask it what it's trying to tell you. And I want to say that I hazard a guess, I won't say I guarantee, but I hazard a guess that there's treasure there for you in that frustration. So love it.
Hello ma'am, Sadman, as an aspiring writer, I want to ask that, what is that one poem or quote that despite the passage of time you apply to your way of life?
I'm so sorry, I couldn't hear. The backing singers were drowned you out. Sing above them.
Okay, what is that one poem or quote that despite the passage of time you apply to your way of life?
What's the what? Did you hear it? Oh. Well, I have to quote my grandmother. Truly, she was an extraordinary person, like all our grandmothers are, who was born in 1900, lived through 2 world wars, and kept singing until the end. And she had a motto, or she just used to say very regularly, "Dull not to," meaning you would say, "Oh, let's go for a walk. Oh, it's just started raining," and she'd say, "Dull not to." Or you'd say, "Oh, shall we have a glass of champagne? Oh, it's only 11 o'clock in the morning," and she would say, "Dull not to." Or someone would say, "Will you come to the Dhaka Lit Fest?" And she would say, "Dull not to." She was that person. She had absolute spirit in every single fiber of her being, and that was infectious. And I definitely caught it off her. So I think "Dull not to" is a great one.
Hello, Metal Cathar's Twitter. I have a question that are there any points that if a movie is based on that, you would love to be casted in it? Are there any points that if a movie is based on that, you would love to be casted in it?
I've never thought of such a thing, but you put that thought in my mind, so I'll let you know next year.
So we only have 4 minutes left. I'll try to take as many questions as possible. There's so many hands.
There's a gentleman, there's a devil over there.
Let's go for the devil.
I want to hear from the devil. Always listen to the devil. He might have something to say.
Black foam.
I'm a bit lightheaded, I'm not gonna lie. Can you hear me through this?
I can hear you, devil.
This is actually a question I had yesterday. Is that out of all the roles that you've had to play throughout your career and by extension throughout your life, which one meant the most to you?
Well, a couple of years ago, I would have given you one answer, and it might have been Orlando, which we screened last night, which is a very dear piece of work for me. But I have to confess to you that I made a film during lockdown, which I hope we can bring to you next year, in which I play my mother, a version of my mother and a version of myself. And it's a film called The Eternal Daughter, and a film I made with my great friend Joanna Hogg. So it's a lovely thing to be able to say, in answer to your question, the last film I made. But it is true, the last film I made. If I go tonight, I'm happy. I really feel very, very replete having made that film.
So we have time for one question, which you will choose. If I choose, I'll be executed.
That gentleman has got the temerity to do that, so I think he should be rewarded.
Can I get the mic?
Although I also see a woman's hand also doing that, but jumping up and down because she's clearly vertically challenged. So I think we should have both of them. Let's be equal. Let gender not exist here. So let's have the gentleman first and end with the lady. Do you have a question, or were you just waiting?
Okay, I'll ask the question. Dear Tilda,
you don't have a microphone.
Dear Tilda, you played a lot of contrasting characters like Constantine and then Dr. Strange. I just want to ask, these characters that you play, you don't only emulate them, you emulate the being that they are. So, when you think your own identity, do you tuck them away, or do they actually come and affect you? Do you think like them sometimes? There's the ancient one, and then you also played Lucifer, so they are very different from each other. I just want to know how you feel, because seeing you, I fall in love with them. It might be only much more chaotic for you.
You know, it's moments like this when I am reminded that I'm really not an actor, because I've heard real actors talking about inhabiting roles as if the role is a sort of box that they walk into and close the door. I don't work in that way at all. If anything, I draw a little tiny, tiny seed out of myself and project it on the screen. And this may not necessarily be an element of me, but it might be something I've seen, or a person I know, or even a fantasy that I've had about somebody. So I would say my joy in playing, and the thing that keeps me performing, is the delight in that projection, that sort of, it is playful for me, it's playing something out. So Gabriel in Constantine is the most Tilda version of Constantine we could have. The ancient one could be played by anybody in this universe, but in that particular film, it was the Tilda version. Orlando, similarly, it's me taking something inside that may not be, it's Tilda inspired, but it's Orlando shaped. Do you see what I mean? I'm the soft center, and then we have the chocolate outside.
Hello.
Final question.
I'm Adiba, and I wanted to say that I love your work a lot. I wanted to ask, who is your favorite director, and is it Wes Anderson?
What's the very last sentence? Hold the thing close to your mouth.
Who is your favorite director, and is it Wes Anderson?
You know I can't answer that. You know I can't answer that. I can't. They're all my comrades, and I love every single one of them. It's a great blessing in my life that I work with my friends.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was beautiful. Thank you so much.